group of international terrorists have seized control of the World Coalition's latest high-tech spy satellite. CMF sources have traced the satellite to an archaeological museum. Your mission is to secretly infiltrate the museum and find out who is responsible for stealing the satellite. Good luck.
Looks like the work of Agares.
That's how they operate.
It's over, Agent Gibson! Prepare to die!
Confidential Mission is an on-rails light gun shooter from Sega, originally released in arcades in 2000 and then ported to the Dreamcast the following year. Despite being a Sega-produced on-rails shooter, Confidential Mission is not discussed nearly as much as games like House of the Dead or Virtua Cop. This is a real shame because Confidential Mission is also an excellent arcade shooter that deserves to be mentioned in the same breath as its peers. The game very much bases its action more on Virtua Cop than House of the Dead, with a more grounded real-world scenario that sees CMF agents Howard Gibson and Gene Clifford fighting a group of terrorists who have managed to steal an entire satellite with the intent to reprogram it and attack CMF headquarters. Unlike Virtua Cop, the game moves away from policing to being a secret agent, and the whole thing has an air of James Bond about it. The game knows this too, and really hams up its cheesy dialogue and acting, which is very much the SEGA Lightgun style.
Look at all the people!
Yeah, and they're not here for the exhibits.
As you progress through the game, you will be gunning down hundreds of terrorists while avoiding shooting any innocents. The stages are littered with extra items like bonus points, extra health, and new weapons with limited ammunition. The game's most original feature is that occasionally you will enter a minigame, where you are given a strict time limit to complete it. Beat the minigame successfully and you continue on the best path through the stage. But if you fail the minigame, you incur a penalty that won't kill you, but will make progress through the rest of the stage a little more difficult. It's an interesting feature that definitely rewards a replay, so you can see how the stages play out differently. The game is quite the looker as well. Despite some low quality textures, the game's visuals hold up surprisingly well and it runs at a rock solid 60 FPS, making the action feel smooth and responsive. The feedback from your shots also feels great, making the simple act of shooting stuff really enjoyable. Sadly, the game's biggest letdown is the lack of extra content. Outside the main arcade mode, the only other features are a training mode that teaches you the game's shooting mechanics, and a 2-player mode for simultaneous co-op play. And unfortunately, that's your lot as far as Confidential Mission goes, which is fine because the game's arcade mode is so strong, but some players may feel a little hard done by. Playing the game with a light gun is also a bit of a challenge nowadays, thanks to Dreamcast light guns requiring a CRT telly to interact with. Thankfully, the game also works on a standard Dreamcast controller, and there's a nice little feature where you can press the L trigger to recenter the crosshair in the middle of the screen, meaning you don't have to drag the cursor around the screen to hit all the enemies. This really comes in handy when the action picks up in intensity and the camera starts moving around more erratically. While Confidential Mission is a little light on content and definitely doesn't have the same impact as something like Virtua Cop or the House of the Dead, it's still a Sega on-rail shooter from the company's golden era, and that counts for a lot. If you're a fan of Sega Lightgun games, then this shouldn't be missed. It's a dumb, fun, secret agent romp that feels great to play and has that typical Sega B-movie flair that makes the whole thing inherently goofy, and I will always love that style of shooter.
Keep an eye on her, or else.
Who are you?
Howard Gibson. CMF secret agent. We haven't got time.